floating heads, aka night floaters or floaters, are paranormal entities reported from various places in Canada and throughout North America. The name refers to the ability of certain individuals to detach their heads from the trunks of their bodies, the heads then being able to fly or float at will. They are said to attack unsuspecting victims, biting them, and sometimes even killing them. As they fly, they make a moaning sound while at a distance, which fades out as they approach their victims. Today, I present for your consideration an email I received from a listener who lives in my old hometown. Hey Warren, my Gramps says he went to high school with you. His name is Warren here. Listener told me his grandfather's name, but said not to name him on YouTube. Now, back to the original email. My Gramps has a few stories about the night floaters from back when he was growing up, but they've been largely forgotten around here nowadays. My dad, who's in his 40s, didn't know about them, and I first heard of them through your YouTube channel. I'll be honest, I just thought it was something you made up. But it made me curious. Yeah, right, Warren me. Anyway, one night, my buddies from Sheridan College and me were cruising around and thought we'd see if we could find the old silo you've talked about in some of your videos. Both Gramps and Dad remembered it and told me they thought it was long gone. But we went to look for it just the same and found it. Gramps had said the silo stood in a field at Spears and 4th Line, which squares with what you said in some of your videos. So we went, and there it was. It was a moonlit night, one of those really bright supermoons. The old silo stood tall, shining silver in the moonlight, out in the middle of a derelict field surrounded by trees. We found the rutted trail leading out to the remains, but I took it slow so as not to damage the car. Suddenly, from the back seat, Luke started yelling for us all to be quiet. Although he didn't actually say it like that. Those weren't the words he used. We all shut up for about 5 seconds, then said, "What's up, bro? What is it?" "I thought I heard something, man. Like something moaning, like moaning, but really loud, eh?" Somebody snickered. "It's just the wind in the trees, dumbass." But we were all in for a big surprise when I used my high beams to illuminate the old silo and the remains of its foundation. It was surrounded by cars. And not just any cars. As we drew closer, we could see that all the cars were black and very old. We're talking vintage, 1950s like. We didn't see any people around, just these old cars. We hesitated to get out when we stopped. The whole situation just felt a little off. Actually, more than a little off. But in the end, curiosity won out. Yeah, I know, a warning to the curious, eh? But we had to see the cars. Had to. There was a huge black Cadillac, the size of a boat, with huge pointy fins at the back. Another was an enormous Buick from the early 50s, with this huge grill. But the most amazing, the most amazing of all was the hearse. Not only was it a coffin carrier, it was a Packard. They were beautiful cars. But the strangest thing of all, they appeared brand new. Straight from the factory. Never driven. And where were all the people? Luke was standing off to one side, preoccupied, head cocked at an angle, as if listening for something. Suddenly he blurted, "I can hear it again, that moaning sound. And don't tell me it was the effing trees, eh?" We could all hear it now, a weird, unearthly moaning or sighing which sent chills running down my spine. I had never heard anything like it before, and it sounded as if it was being produced by multiple voices, like a pack of infernal wolves. We might have stood there stunned, transfixed by the sound, but suddenly Dylan said in a shaky voice, "Guys?" Dylan was standing at the entrance to a basement storage area under the remains of the old barn's concrete floor. There, in the darkness, on the dirt floor, lay a pile of bodies. We used the lights from our phones to illuminate the scene. 5 bodies, 2 men and 3 women. All were headless. Do you think they're dead?" Dylan whispered. "I don't know," I said, "but I think we better get the hell out of here now." We should have too, but for some weird reason, we couldn't seem to pull ourselves away from the sight of the headless bodies or the old abandoned cars. It was as if time stood still. The moaning sound had stopped. In fact, there was no sound. It was like we were in a bubble of silence. But eventually we got back in the car, debating as to whether or not to call the cops or just take off, hey? When JT suddenly said, "Oh shit." We all looked in the direction in which he was staring and almost shit ourselves. Out of the basement area walked the 5 bodies. The 5 headless bodies. You might think that bodies without heads would stagger around. I mean, like, how can they see? But these things walked straight and with purpose and right towards us. And then they began to run. I slammed the car into reverse and tried desperately to turn, bumping my way over the rough grass until we were finally able to regain the trail, where I floored it, not worrying about any damage to the car's undercarriage. In my fevered attempt to get away, we seemed to be moving in slow-mo, the headless mob on our tail, and gaining. When we finally made it to the blessed 4th line, and I was able to get up to speed. For once, everyone was silent. Dead silent. I guess we were all in shock. Finally, I managed to sputter out, "Are they still behind us?" Luke spoke in a faltering voice, twisting towards falsetto. No bodies, but 5 heads. 5 heads floating in the air." We all turned to look. I turned to look, nearly sending the car into the ditch. 5 heads were indeed following us, streaming through the air, their red eyes flashing, while their long black hair flowed out behind them. The pinched, pale faces, their pinched, pale faces, had a common look: thin, ugly, and dirty. I slammed my foot down on the accelerator, but the heads kept pace with us. Finally, to get away, I headed up Dorval Drive, and from there onto the highway. And I don't know if it was our increased speed or all the other cars and witnesses which made them finally give up pursuit. We agreed not to talk about it. I mean, who besides you would believe it? But I made the mistake of telling my buddy Chance about it. He did not believe it, not a word of it. "Where's this silo supposed to be?" he demanded. "I've never seen it." So we drove out to look at it. And holy shit, it was gone! Vanished! All that was there was an old abandoned factory. No old cars, no ruined foundation, no silo, and no people. No nothing. What the hell is going on? Can you explain it? To be continued. After all, 2 heads are better than 1.